Great. Thanks everybody for joining us again. Please use the chat function to introduce yourself and share what country you're joining us from today. I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Aboriginal land, on stolen and unceded land, and pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nations, from where I live, work, and I'm currently very ill, and extend that respect to their elders past, present and future, as well as traditional custodians of country throughout all the lands, waters and territories. I acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples as the first artists, storytellers and mentors on this continent. Peer-to-peer coaching and sharing knowledge has been practiced here for thousands and thousands of years. It's how we grow, learn and evolve, and I'm really thrilled to welcome you here to the briefing of this new small group peer-to-peer coaching program that's been designed with and for the Australian arts and culture sector. And I'm going to hand over now to Kate, Dr. Kate Powell from the University of Queensland, who was the lead researcher on Creating Out Loud. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks so much, Penelope, and thank you to everyone on the call. It's a delight to have you join me and the other industry partners who've been so much a part of preparing this program. And I want to echo Penelope's acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're all working. I'm in Meanjin, want to recognise the Yagara and Turrbal peoples, and I'll share my screen now. There we go. We'll just make this part nice and big for you. Okay, so hopefully, can you see that? Not showing yet? All right, let's try that again. How about now? Penelope, can you just tell me if you can see that? Because your face has disappeared from my screen.
Sorry, Kate. Yes, I can.
Good. Excellent. Thanks so much. All right. So in this session, I'm going to walk you through what Creating Out Loud is, why and how it was developed. I'll show you one part of the program in a little bit of detail so you can get a flavour of it and suggest some of the ways that you might like to use it. And then I'll hand over to Nicole from TNA for a little bit on their perspective as a very active industry partner on the research and the development of the program. And then we'll end with some time for Q&As. So I'd like to start by first showing you a little 3-minute video that outlines what the program is. And it also will give you a sense of the kind of resources that are available. They're not all online yet, but we'll very soon be having a video for every part of the program. I'm just leaning over so that I can press play. Here we go. Creating Out Loud is a peer coaching program developed and tested with people working at all levels of Australia's arts and culture sector. It offers a set of guided discussions to help artists and arts managers deepen and expand their professional networks, rethink important issues and practices, and support one another through knowledge sharing, goal setting, and gentle accountability. Using Creating Out Loud, people get together regularly in small groups known as a peer coaching circle. You might form a circle with people you already know or branch out and develop new relationships. Circle members can be independent artists or arts managers who all work at the same company, or people who have similar positions at different companies. Participants often really enjoy coming together with people they didn't already know, from different demographic backgrounds, different artistic fields, different job types and locations. Depending on what your circle prefers, you can follow a 6 or 7 session topic-based program, which addresses key issues facing the arts and culture sector, including knowing and communicating the value of your work, sustainability, coping with uncertainty, alternative business practices, and the future of artistic practice. Or you can use an open-ended, goal-focused program to explore your own questions and challenges, giving and receiving input with other circle members. You can also combine these programs, starting out with the topic-based sessions and then moving on to the goal-focused discussions, or alternating between them each time you meet. Creating Out Loud discussion guides are designed to support conversations lasting between an hour and an hour and a half, depending on the number of people in your circle, with 5 people being the ideal size. The most important thing is that circle members are willing and able to journey with one another, to view one another as equals, and to create and hold a space in which everyone can both give and receive support. When that happens, you take on the role of a critical friend for one another, sharing your knowledge and experience, encouraging and gently challenging one another. And research shows that this can deliver closer and richer relationships than traditional mentoring and be even more effective than one-on-one coaching. I hope you'll give it a try. Okay, so that does give you a little bit of a sense of what the program is about, but let me now just tell you in a little bit more detail. I hope you can all still see that screen. So why did I work with the arts sector and the partners that I've been engaged with to develop Creating Out Loud? Obviously, as we all know, there's been tremendous disruption to the arts and culture sector over the past 2 years because of COVID. Countless people have lost their income as well as opportunities for creating and showing their work. During this time, there has been some good news and some excellent programs developed, but not everyone has had access to government funding and not all of the new programs are ongoing. So one really great initiative that came out of this period of time came from the Queensland government, the Advanced Queensland Industry Research Fellowship Program. And this scheme normally supports research on pure science, technology, and agriculture. But because of COVID, the eligibility criteria for the scheme were expanded in 2021 to include tourism and entertainment. And so I jumped on this opportunity to develop a project for the arts and culture sector. Obviously, it's an industry research fellowship, so that involves someone like me from a university working with industry partners. And in this case, the partners were Queensland Ballet, Theatre Network Australia, and Boite Theatre here in Brisbane. And the project was also supported by an industry reference group representing the wider sector. So the industry reference group members were those 3 key partners, as well as NAVA and Arts Nexus up in Cairns and Blakdance. So all aspects of the program were developed in collaboration with the industry reference group. And I also co-located with Queensland Ballet and Boite 1 day a week at each company over the 18 months of the program. So in previous research, I had explored what sustainability means to the sector, and that research showed me that career sustainability is a critical issue, as I'm sure you know, long before COVID hit. So I was already looking for ways that research might be used to support career sustainability in the sector. And during one of the interviews in that earlier research project, sorry, I'll just leave it there, Dilshani, the executive director at Queensland Ballet, asked me if I had ever heard about working out loud. So she thought that perhaps working out loud might be useful in the arts. And working out loud is a very successful peer coaching program that was developed for business. It's used internationally very widely, including with companies like Pfizer and Bosch and Vodafone. So my first step in this project was to test working out loud with 4 groups of artists and arts managers at Queensland Ballet and at Boite to see how helpful this kind of peer coaching might be and how I could design a program that would be tailored and most helpful to the arts. So in case you are not familiar with the term, peer coaching involves people of a roughly equal professional status coming together in a focused way to help one another pursue their personal or professional goals. And this can happen one-on-one but it can also happen in small groups that are often known as circles. Peer coaching circles are very common in education, and they've been found to be effective and sustainable way of giving and receiving support in a wide range of different groups. So, for example, they've been shown to increase knowledge, connectivity, confidence, and commitment amongst academic and general staff at universities, amongst student athletes, and amongst remotely located Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander undergraduate students. So, like traditional mentoring, which is obviously a well-established form of professional development in the arts, peer coaching relies on quality conversations that are based on a desire to learn and genuine interest in other people. And Australia has some excellent traditional mentoring programs, but these are quite resource intensive, and as a result, they can be difficult to access. So I was looking for something that would be lower cost and available to anyone who might want to participate. So in the case of Creating Out Loud, all of the program materials have now been uploaded to the project website. They're freely available to download, and they can be accessed by independent artists or arts companies, anyone at all who's looking for a new approach to knowledge sharing, collaboration, and mutual support. So the second step in the project was a needs assessment survey to uncover what are the main issues that people in the arts want to talk about with each other, as well as sector perspectives on what shape a peer coaching program might be in order to be most helpful. And the survey identified these 5 broad topic areas: communicating the value of the arts, sustainability, well-being, in particular coping with precarious or uncertain employment and uncertain funding and all the other types of uncertainty, alternative business models, and the future of artistic practice. So together with the survey and the pilot of the Working Out Loud program, that helped me to develop a set of topic-based discussion guides. And as you'll see from this slide, I tested the program with people working in the sector and refined the program after each iteration in response to participant feedback. So you can see that TNA took a really leading role in this part of the program. So they organised the review of the program materials by cultural consultants. They invited expressions of interest from potential participants, and they curated small groups that brought together artists and arts workers representing diverse art forms and job types and organisations around Australia. And we ran 8 groups with TNA last year, and that was the first run through, which we then used to refine and further develop the program. So subsequent to that first iteration, further circles included arts workers from QMF and Queensland Ballet here in Brisbane, the human resources directors from 5 of what used to be called the major performing arts companies around Australia. So 1 person from each of those 5 different companies, independent visual artists from regional Queensland, and I can see at least one of those people here on the call. Thanks for coming. And the partnerships and development professionals from a variety of companies in Queensland, South Australia, and New South Wales. And so that group was hosted by CPA, and I thank Zoe for coming. So during this part of the project, we added and we tested a goal-focused discussion guide. So this is not so much a curriculum or a set of content to work through, but an opportunity especially designed for senior arts leaders or arts workers who might prefer to bring their own issues or challenges to a circle for input, feedback, or advice. So now I'll quickly walk you through one of the guides. Let's just see why that's not going down. There we go. So this is the guide about sustainability, and I think that you'll see as we work through it that circles can be fully self-facilitating. They don't need to have a facilitator, although they do work very well with a facilitator if resources permit. So each discussion guide is designed to last for about an hour, up to an hour and a half, depending on the number of people in the circle, how much they like to talk, and how much time they have available. And we did run and test it at different lengths. So 1 hour worked well, an hour and a quarter, an hour and a half, all worked quite well depending on the group. And while there is some variation between the guides, most of the sessions look like this, with those sort of main activity types. So I'll walk you through each of those right now. We begin with a check-in to help circle members settle in and be present with one another. And for some people, this is the most valuable part of the program, to be able to share that personal side of what's going on for them. The Being Here session includes an acknowledgement of country. And although I'm showing you the University of Queensland official statement on this slide, circle members are invited to speak genuinely from the heart rather than following any particular kind of formula. The Being Here session also includes an opportunity to share what steps you've taken since the last session, what's moved on for you from the last session. And if you didn't take any particular steps that you had planned to take, to share something that you learned or enjoyed since the last meeting. So there's no judgment if you didn't do what you said you were going to do, but there's just that gentle accountability that you will be asked about it. And in some guides, the Being Here section also includes a kind of focus question that helps circle members orient to the topic of the day. Some discussion guides, or most of them, also provide just a very brief introduction to the topic for the session, which draws on relevant research, some media or reports that are related to the topic. And in this case, it's the research that I did on what sustainability means to the arts sector. But the core part of each session involves a combination of individual reflection and group discussion. And as you'll see from this slide, in the individual reflection part, most guides contain more questions than you can fully discuss within an hour. And so that means that you can either choose the question or questions that are most interesting to you, or you can use the guides more than once and you can deal with a different question on different occasions. Most circles work through one or more questions during the actual session time, although some circles do decide to do the questions beforehand, and that leaves more time for sort of free conversation and sharing during this session. So after some time for personal reflection, circle members are invited to share their thoughts with the group. And this is followed by a whole group discussion with a different set of questions. And here again, there's usually more questions than you need. So you can choose the question that matters most to you. You can either use the other questions on another occasion or reflect on them individually outside the session. And then lastly, each session ends with an invitation to identify one thing that you plan to do before the next session. And this next step could be following up on that meeting's topic. And most discussion guides include a suite of links to different resources on the topic of the day, which you can explore. Or your next step might be moving forward on one of your personal or professional goals. And as I mentioned earlier, the main thing is that you know you're going to be asked about it at the next meeting, gently, without judgment. But for many people, that knowing that someone will ask them about it next week or next month, next time they meet, inspires them to do the things that they might not otherwise have done. So how can you use the program? Everything that you need to run Creating Out Loud is freely available from the project website. It includes visually accessible discussion guides. There are single-page versions of each guide. There are slide decks similar to what I've just shown you for running the groups online. And very soon we'll be posting some more videos, something like the video that I showed you at the start. There's one video for every discussion guide. The materials have a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. That means that you can copy and redistribute them in any format, but I would ask you to give appropriate credit and indicate if you are modifying or changing them, indicate where those changes were made. You can't use them for commercial purposes, and if you do modify them, you can't distribute the modified material. The reason for all of that is to make sure that the materials remain permanently freely available in their tested form, because we know this works for anyone in the sector who wants to run them. So starting next week, actually, with a small team of trained facilitators, I'll be delivering this program on behalf of the Australia Council for the Arts, for the emerging experimental and community arts portfolios. And I really hope that this is just the start of the program being picked up and used across the sector. My hope is that governments and peak bodies will follow TNA's lead in curating circles that connect people across the sector, particularly independent artists, that companies will connect people from different teams by enabling voluntary formation of in-house circles, that people whose job means they work alone within a company can connect with people in similar job types across different companies, and that independent artists might like to use it similar to a book club, getting together with people they already know. And I would love it if you shared the program website and the link to this recording. I believe NAVA will be sharing the link. Share it as widely as possible throughout your networks, and hopefully that will become a useful resource for the sector. So I'll stop sharing now and hand over to Nicole.
Thanks so much, Kate. Hello, everybody. Firstly, I want to say how amazing it is to have worked with a group of people on this program. We love working in partnership at TNA because basically it means we do less work and we pinch great ideas from other people. That's our philosophy. Thanks to NAVA for putting on this session. It's really great to have that extra support and to have had NAVA and the other reference group members to discuss these things with. It's been really great. And, you know, big thanks to you, Kate. It's been so amazing to work with you over the last 18 months or 2 years, however long it's been. And then to come up with this beautiful resource for the sector, it makes us really happy. So we thought that I could just give a little bit of an overview of, you know, our involvement in the program. And then I might actually ask if there's anyone who was, because I can see some people who were involved in the TNA groups, that they might want to chip in and add things from their point of view as well. First of all, I want to say that peer learning is something that TNA has been doing actually since we started in 2009. What I love about peer learning is that it's learning from each other. It's acknowledging that we've got lots of good stuff that we know and we can share that with each other. We don't need experts always to tell us how to do things. Sometimes we just need to articulate it with our colleagues, and then that makes us go, oh yeah, actually I did know that, or sharing those ideas. So then when Kate approached us to be involved in this, I went, this is exactly the sort of thing that we love doing, but with the benefit of having Kate and her work and her research and the university's resources behind it. It's so fantastic to have a level of rigor and you know, academic evidence and research that sort of then supports the work that we've been doing in a bit of a made up way, to be honest. So we jumped in, and because it fitted in really well with the peer learning program that we were going to be running last year, we were able to run those 8 groups and to pay independent artists, which was wonderful. We like to pay independents wherever we possibly can, because independents, even here today, are often here without anyone paying for their time. So that was really great. As Kate said, the sustainability session, for example, is informed by research that she has previously done. And you'll find in all of the guides, there's references to other areas of research that are relevant to that topic. And the beauty of the groups is that you can nerd out on that if you want to, or you don't have to at all. You can just sort of come in and you can just skate through it and just use it as a bit of a guide and just have the conversation. So it's you can tap in at whatever level works for you. For for TNA, choosing who the people were in the groups was really important. I would say in the first cohort that we ran last year, there was one group that really wasn't functional. And that's on us because of how we chose people. And so if you are going to do it with a group of people who don't already know each other, then who they are is really important. So you need to do that work with quite a complex matrix. And even then, it just might be chemistry. This year's groups were a bit more cohesive, although, you know, different degrees of success. You know, I think there was one that was perhaps less enthusiastic than the other three. I really love the idea of gentle accountability. Often people want to have these conversations with their peers, but what you need is for someone to say, we're meeting again next week. Here's a bit of a structure. You have to do a bit of homework and then bring that back to the group. And that's what this offers, as well as those beautiful guides that will give you a framework for how to have those conversations. So before I ask for any other testimonials, I will say that we invite anyone to contact us. If you have an idea that there's 5 people that you would like to get together with, and you would like to, you know, run one of these, then feel free to reach out to any of us and basically just let us know. I mean, what we can help you with is scheduling the dates. We can set up a doodle poll for you. And then after that, if you're happy to self-facilitate, then you just go ahead and run it. So it's an invitation from now to set up one of those groups. I think that's all that I said, that I was going to talk about. I'd love to hand over. I can see quite a few people who were involved in the groups last year or this year. Is there anyone who wanted to share something? No pressure, but if there's anything that you particularly got out of it. Celine's reaching forward. Or Claire, go.
Oh, hello. I'm sorry for joining late. I've had a few technical issues. I'd like to say I thought it was fantastic. And I got things out of the group that I didn't think I'd get. I'm not sure what I went in with an idea of, but I got so much more out of it. And I still tell people now about the group. It's hard to describe what the group was to people without like giving them a written description, because every week like something new would come up, and there was just so much knowledge that I gained. And I thought what was fantastic, and because we are in the age of Zoom, it was good to meet people from other states, because in different states we do things differently. I'm Victorian, and we always, you know, think we know what we're doing here, but it's just so good to get the insights from others. But I thought it was just incredible. It wasn't what I had in mind, but then once I realized it was going to be something different, I was so pleased, and so pleased to work with the cohort I had, because there are people I would never have met in the pre-Zoom era unless we happened to be in some strange cocktail bar somewhere. There's no way I would have run into these people. And so it was just wonderful to be in a room with them every week. So I loved that. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Mia, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, hey. I guess I just wanted to express a similar gratitude and, you know, explain that it was really great process to go through. As a primary school teacher, I had full confidence that that model was going to work. So entering the program with that perspective, I found essential for me. And then connecting also with the creative business champions that Arts Queensland at the time was rolling out as well. So I was actually across the period of involvement with Creating Out Loud was also getting supported by creative business champions. So I found it really great in an essence of being able to focus on my arts practice side of my creative business when the Creating Out Loud sessions were with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Mia. Is there anyone else who wanted to share? Jens? No? Pippa?
Yeah, I'll share. I was also incredibly grateful to Kate and had a wonderful group of people to connect with. And I think my one caveat would be that we together got concerned that it could inadvertently reinforce structures that we're all asking questions about. So that's really, in terms of its ongoing life, that's something that I'm curious about how we check and balance. And but it was a wonderful experience. In fact, I'm seeing one of the colleagues I met tomorrow in flesh for the first time. So that's a lovely thing to be able to share today.
That's an interesting point about reinforcing structures, Pippa, because there is something about when you choose peers are often people like yourself. But we know that actually diversity brings real richness and progress. So yes, it's a balance, isn't it, to make sure that there's a group that's cohesive, but actually that there's enough diversity of opinion and experience that you are getting new ideas. I think that's really, really important point. Thank you, Pippa. Melissa, you were involved in the reference group.
Hello, yes, I was, and I was so pleased to be part of watching the journey and lots of conversations with Kate. Being in the region, to be connected with your peers, and I don't necessarily mean colleagues as well. I mean, sometimes we're matched through interest or specialities or other things that maybe aren't in our job or aren't in our team. So for me, I found that opportunity, and even though that was amazing, but even though we weren't able to pull a group together because we were looking at independence, and so they didn't have that formal work schedule or ability to line up, and so it was very much like herding cats, as we kept saying. But people were really excited. There was, over 25 people that were really excited to have a chance to be part of it. So we're looking forward to now using the resources. So I really thank Kate for reaching out and keeping me on the radar and involved and meeting all the others in the reference group. So thank you again. And to Artsfront for the first introductions too. There, again, a network. So reaching out, thank you.
Building networks. Thanks. Yes. Shall I hand back to you, Kate, and you can, it's open Q&A now, is it? Or I'll hand back to you anyway.
Sure. Okay. So I'm very happy to answer any questions. And if there aren't questions, then we'll finish early, but feel free to throw any thoughts or questions or suggestions you might have about how to roll out the program further. I can see a comment. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go, Claire.
Sorry, I can just see Nick on screen, so I can't see who else has got their hands up. I'm sorry. I want to say, so when I applied for Creating Out Loud, I can't remember what the exact questions were, but I definitely chose the program on the strength of the day of each week and the time I could make it. And fortunately, some really interesting people also chose that day and that time. But I think it'd be good maybe and I'm not sure, maybe I wasn't aware of the selection criteria, but I think it would be good if for future programs, assuming and hopefully they will run, if applicants could say, I'm interested in working with, someone who works in circus. I'd like to get to know someone from a disability background, and then if we knew we could be with these people, then we could then choose which day we wanted. Because I sort of had a bit of FOMO, fear of missing out. I thought, God, I wonder who was on at 1 o'clock. I wonder who the Wednesday group was. So I was very happy with my group, but it just strikes me that we placed in the groups on the strength of our availability rather than on the strength of our interests. So I certainly didn't want to work with people who were Victorian and in theatre like me. I did not want to meet myself in a room. So I was very pleased that as luck had it, the people who were in my room were all very different from me. So I think I got lucky, but I'm not sure everyone did or will. So.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. And I think that points to the value of organisations, peak bodies getting involved, because as I mentioned, you could run it like a book club with people you already know, but then you don't get that benefit of meeting completely different people. And that's where someone like TNA or CPA, that through their membership, they can collect people from around Australia. And the other thing, of course, is, as I mentioned, with the human resources directors at different companies, reaching out to people who've got your same job description. You might not have ever met them, but you can form a circle with them. And I saw that Elliot's already mentioned that in the chat, setting up a circle with people who've got your similar kind of professional interests. That's another way to use it. Any other comments, questions, observations?
I wondered, Kate, what were the things that you changed from session to session?
Yeah, so what the big one was adding the goal-focused guide. So the first set that we ran were all more topic-based. And that actually came out of research from Canada, where there was a very small study looking at peer coaching in the arts that indicated having a kind of curriculum is helpful. So we started out that way, but then one of the groups that was in that early TNA set really was looking for something a bit more on the goal-focused, independent, bring your own thoughts and bring your own ideas. So we added that in the second round. Aside from that, it was more just sort of the wording of questions, or pulling out, if there's already too many questions, pulling out things that didn't need to be there, tweaking things, reorganizing things. But because the program had already been reviewed by cultural consultants, people with lived experience of disability and marginalization, we felt pretty confident going in that it was at least on the right track. And so then it was relatively minor tweaks apart from the addition of that goal focus one.
Thanks for that.
Can I just add something there, Kate? It's because it's a really good question, Mia, and we may need to tweak the guides, at some point in the future as well. So because they're live documents, certainly from TNA's point of view, give us any feedback. And Kate's not, funded by this her research project anymore, but we could probably between us, find a way to make any changes that do need to happen. When those guides are being used by you, it would be great to get that feedback.
Yeah, and I'll also add that at the moment there are 5 topic-based guides, but there's no reason why there can't be more on different topics. And so the survey eliciting what are the topics people wanted to talk about, there were more topics. There just wasn't enough capacity within that 18-month period to develop sort of a guide on every possible topic. So I'm certainly open to developing more guides, either in partnership with sort of people who've got that special interest and special expertise, or in response to some kind of need that emerges as people start using the program.
Kate, if there are no more questions, I reckon, given this is a launch and I'm a DAG, I reckon we all need to launch it and raise your glass, everybody, or your water bottle. And people are putting that's nice. And a big thanks to you, Kate, for this. It's been fantastic. We just love working with universities. Working with our colleagues is great. And shall we just, declare the program launched? Launched. Yay, cheers. Thanks, everybody. And thanks so much, Kate. And thanks, NAVA, for today as well.
Thanks. That was a really nice touch, Nicole. Thank you.
Thank
you. Nice to have a smile. Thank you, everybody, also for just sharing your experiences with the program today. It's been
Yeah, really interesting, and looking forward to us picking up the program as well.
Good. All right. Thanks so much for coming, everyone. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me through the UQ email address and the website.